Today we want to build a projects and tasks database, view and dashboard so that you can just get a basic idea of how I would go about doing it. And the first thing to keep in mind is that we want to build separate databases for each of whether it is projects, tasks or clients, the trifecta of a good project management system, and we want to keep them separate so that that data can be stored somewhere else while we only interact with specific views of that data. That is the first principle. So let's start with that. And what I'm going to do is on our page right here, going to create a separate page. Let's just call that Data Vault. And we can create a nice database icon for this. Let's see, database icon, and we are going to create our separate databases here that will store our data. So let's start with the first one. We're going to call that clients. So what I will say is create a database, a full page database. We're going to call this one demo clients, and I think let's do the first one manually, and then we'll do some of the other ones with AI, and you can get an idea how I would potentially do both of those. So we want to set up the properties. Properties would be the things, the data points that we would typically want to see for either clients, projects or tasks, so that later on we can filter according to those properties when we build our views. So the first one would typically be client name. And then we would typically want to see a status for that client. Status, whether that client is, for example, let's say active, or can also be archived. If you want to say that, we want to potentially also have a date property where we can say this client was added on, and we can track the lifetime of our clients, and we can potentially also add other aspects like what industry this is or who their contact is or whatever else. But let's just keep it super simple for now. That would be clients. Then we go back to our database and we can see our demo clients are there. And let's just give them emoji. Then we also want to add projects. Once again, same process, database, full page. We're gonna call this demo projects. We're gonna add our icon over there. And this will potentially be the project name. We want to also add a date property that is added on. We want to potentially have a start date for this property. Let's say start date, or no, let's say timeline, and we can add start and end dates to that. And we want to potentially have a what type of property this is. So we're going to have a selection here, and we're going to call this type. And then let's say, for example, edit property options can be brand, marketing, sales, advertising, content, whatever type of project this might be. And then we potentially also want to have a project status property. I'm just going to choose this here. We're going to say status, and then we options will for that would potentially be pending, active, archived. Yeah, and let's add stored as well. That can also potentially be a status. Now, what is interesting now is we want to relate our clients database to our project database so that we can say this project belongs to these clients and these clients belong to these projects. So how we're going to do that is add another property here and say this is a relation property, and we want to link this demo projects database to the demo clients property, task database that we created. So we want to say this is related to demo clients, and we want to say there's no limit, and we want to say this is a two-way relation. So one client can have many projects, and the relation shows up on both the project database as well as the client database. And we're going to just say add relation. So over here, I'm going to say this would be the client. Let's just move all the way up there. Let's just call this client. And then if we go back to our data vault and we click on clients, we will say, here's the relation, shows up here. So this would then be the projects that that database is related to. So this is the client, this is the status. They were added on here, and these are all the projects that relates to this client, and then the same with projects. This is the project, this is the client that is related to this project, and then all kinds of other. So let's go here. Let's do one with AI, and I'll show you how easy that is. So we're going to go over here, and I'm going to just quickly talk to my agent saying, look at this page with databases for clients and projects. I want you to add a third database called demo tasks. Add typical properties that would be relatable to task. For example, due date, assignee, status. And then I also want you to add two-way relations to both the clients, demo clients, and the demo projects database. Add this as a full page database on this data vault page. All right, let's just go ahead and send that off and then see what it comes up with. There we go. We've got a demo tasks database. We're going to click on that in a moment and see what it did so that we can see how it built that out. But let's just quickly do some cosmetics here. Demo tasks, status. Status options are yes, due date, assignees, is a person, property, priority. Priority, yeah, let's keep that. Notes for tasks, we're going to delete that. We're not going to need notes for tasks, delete property. We want to keep this simple, right? Created on, yeah, that's great. Client and project, excellent. So client, edit property, two-way relation, no limit with demo clients, yes. Project, edit property, related to demo projects, no limit, two-way relation. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So if we go back to data vaults, we'll see that yes, here is all our three databases. We've got now room for clients, room for tasks, and room for projects. Let's quickly separate those. There you go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just for purposes of illustration. So I'm going to ask the AI to fill this with mock content. So let's go ahead and do that. I want you to fill all three of these databases, whether it's clients, projects, or tasks, with mock content so that we can get an idea of how these databases would play out. Create at least 5 clients. Each client needs to have at least 3 projects, and each project needs to have at least 5 tasks. Make sure to fill out all the relations and all the properties related to each entry in each of the databases. All right, let's send that out and see how it goes. All right, it's done. I populated all 3 databases with mock data, fully linked, 5 clients, 15 projects, 75 tasks. So let's quickly see how all of that looks. If we go to clients, yes, here's all the clients. It is showing all the related projects and tasks for each client. Let's just do some cosmetics here. Let's change the icon for clients. We're just going to make it that arrow. Back to data vault. Let's go to projects. Yes, here's all the mock projects. Client is added on. Here are all the tasks for each of those projects. Let's do the same here. Edit icon. this would be projects, so they're going to look like that. And then back to Data Vault, let's look at demo tasks. Yes, here are all the tasks. All are assigned to me, created on. Each one's got a client, each one's got a project. And let's do the same here. Let's change all the icons here to just a check mark. All right, that's our Data Vault. Now we've got clients, projects, and tasks. If we go back to Demo My Projects, we've built separate databases, we've created relations. Now we can design a dashboard. So let's create a new page. We're gonna call that, it's gonna be a page. We're gonna call this My Projects Dashboard. Now what we can do is we can actually create views of that database. And because we are now working with views only, it means that if we delete something here or we change it around or we mess something up, that data still stays intact in our data vault. So if we add something here, we're going to, for example, not say add a new database, we're going to say add a view of a database, which is like a lens or a filter on a specific database. So what I am going to ask our AI now here to do, let's do one manually and then we'll do the rest with AI. So let's, for example, say I want to just view a list of all my clients. So we're going to say add a view, let's say a gallery view, and I want to link to an existing data source because we already created that database, and I want to see my clients. And yes, I want to see them all like this, but then let me dismiss this AI window. For our dashboard, we obviously want to have it full width. And then let's, for example, just quickly do this. We want to have 2 columns in our dashboard. For demo clients, we want to have it there. So let's do some cosmetics here. Let's say we want to have a call out. We don't want to have a icon here, remove it. We want to have this called clients. We want to have that as heading 2. We want to remove this database title, high title, and then we want to put that right into there, and we want to make sure it's in our 2 column. Let's just create this again. 2 columns. It's in our 2 column layout. There you go. So now we have clients here. Let's change this color to default background, and now we can change the layout. The layout of this should be a gallery, and the cover card preview should just be nothing, so we can just quickly see all our clients here. So here we have our clients, 5 clients, and what we want to do, property visibility, is choose what information we can see on here. So we potentially want to see the status of our clients. We can see all our clients are active, and then we can move this over a little bit over to here. So now we can start designing our dashboard, looking at all the things that we potentially want to see. So what we can do is let's create a timeline view of our projects and then a full Kanban board of all our tasks, so we can be sure we can see all of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another call out here. We're going to call this projects. Let's create a heading there, and what we're going to say is we want a database view, let's say a timeline view, and we want to link to existing data source. We want to link to projects. There we go. Let's do all the same cosmetics here. We want to hide the title, and we want to change the layout to timeline. Show page icon. Yes, show timeline by, we want to show it by timeline. There we go. So now we can see what's happening with all our projects and where we are. And then let's quickly change this to quarter. So now we can see March, April, we can see what projects is happening where and where we are, and we can see all active projects. We can, of course, here also say what properties we want to see. For example, if you want to see who the client is for each of these projects, we can definitely see it there. But because it is repeated in the name of the project, which I strongly advise, then we can just keep this off and keep it nice and clean. All right, let's minimize this. Let's minimize this. So now we can see, let's put that one there, all our clients and all our projects. So let's do one last database view. And of course, as projects or clients grow, this list will be longer here, but let's do a separate database view here of our tasks. That is one of the more important ones. So we want to say, let's do a board view of an existing data source, and that would be tasks. And we are going to just keep it clean, not within a call out here. However, we do want to call this tasks, heading 2. We want to hide this title, and we want to change this to show a Kanban board so that we can see what is happening and what we should do. And we can potentially even add different views, which I'll show you in a moment. So the primary view, we want to have this be a board, and we want it to be sorted according to status. So now we can see what is not started, what is in progress, what is blocked, what is done. And we want to potentially hide this group where there's no status, so we can go from not started to in progress to blocked. And what we want to do is we want to see more properties here. So we want to specifically see who the assignee is. We want to see what the deadline is, and we potentially want to see what the project is. And we want to see what the project is right at the top, so we can see this is a task, it's for this project, I'm the assignee, and this is my deadline. And now what we can do is we can start moving tasks from the one to the other as it gets done or as the status changes. So that is what we want to do over here with this database. And we can also, so let's say this title, let's rename this is called status. We also want to potentially see it have a calendar view. So I'm just going to duplicate this view, but then I'm going to call it calendar, and I'm going to change the emoji here to calendar, and I want to change the layout to a calendar view. Now I can see what is on my calendar to-do list here, and I also want to change the property visibility so that I can see who the assignee is. I also want to see what the project is, and I want to see what the project is before I see what the assignee is. And now I have a calendar view for tasks as well. Friends, and that is very basically how you set up a My Projects or My Task dashboard. I can quickly see who all the clients is. I can see what all the projects are that is happening at any given point, and I can see what the tasks are that are due today. Let's go to today. There you go. And I can see what the status is of all those tasks. And yes, this is very simple, but this is very easy to set up both manually and with AI, as I showed you. And there are, of course, many other changes that we can do, but this would be the My Projects database that we will be working on with demos in future. If you have any questions, please let me know below. Next up, we can potentially look at how to set up templates for each of these pages, how to work more with filters and sorts and all these kind of things. But for now, just the basics on how to set up projects, tasks, and clients, databases that are related to each other, separate data vault, and a dashboard to view the data in. See you in the next one.